There is a fear that lives deep within every woman, one that she will never speak of, yet one that quietly shapes how she loves, how she connects, and how she controls. It's not the fear of rejection, nor the fear of loneliness. It's something far darker, a fear that, once understood, reveals why she acts distant when she cares the most, why she hides her emotions behind calmness, and why she's drawn to the man she cannot move. In this video, we'll uncover the secret feminine fear no one talks about, the one that defines her power, her mystery, and her psychology in the game of attraction and control. In the hidden chambers of the human mind, there exists a silent war between emotion and control. For the feminine psyche, this conflict is ancient, woven into the fabric of her instincts, her interactions, and her strategy in the theater of relationships. She has learned, consciously or not, that emotion is both her greatest weapon and her most dangerous weakness. It is the sword and the wound at once. To reveal her emotion too soon is to hand over her crown of influence. To conceal it is to preserve the illusion of power. This is the paradox that governs her fear, the fear of losing power through emotion. When a woman begins to feel deeply, she senses the balance shifting. The calm certainty she once held starts to tremble. The moment her emotions become visible, they become vulnerabilities in the eyes of the one she feels them for. Because the one who remains emotionally stable always dominates the one who reacts. It is an unspoken law of human nature. Control commands respect. Emotion invites manipulation. This is why her greatest terror is not in being rejected. It is in being seen too clearly. To be seen in her softness, her longing, her jealousy, her desire, that is to be unmasked. And once unmasked, she loses the mystique that keeps her in control. Throughout history, women have been admired for their beauty, grace, and emotional depth. Yet beneath that admiration lies a recognition of danger. Those same emotions that attract others can also enslave her to them. The more she feels, the less she rules. This is why the most intelligent women often hide their emotions behind calm faces, cryptic smiles, and an appearance of composure. They understand that silence is power, that mystery commands attention, and that control creates value. Emotion may move hearts, but control moves the world. Observe closely, and you will see that this fear manifests subtly. It appears when she delays replying to a message, when she turns her gaze away to regain her calm, when she acts uninterested just to restore the balance of attention. Each act of indifference is not always pride, it is protection. For every woman who has once lost herself in emotion carries the memory of defeat. She remembers how vulnerability made her powerless, how caring too much turned admiration into advantage for the other side. She does not fear love itself, she fears the helplessness that often follows it. Even in moments of intimacy, this fear remains. She might love deeply, but she will never wish to be dependent. The fear of emotional exposure runs deeper than rejection. It is the fear of surrendering control over her own mind, the fear that someone could affect her thoughts, moods, and decisions. It is not the heart she guards, but the throne of her inner stability. The loss of power through emotion is not about appearing weak to the world. It is about feeling weak before herself. When emotion takes command, logic retreats. When attachment grows, authority fades. And so, the feminine learns to master the delicate art of concealment, to speak softly while calculating silently, to smile while withholding, to appear free while protecting the empire of her emotions. This is not manipulation, it is survival, because in a world where power belongs to those who remain calm, the woman who feels too much without control becomes the one who loses silently in the game she thought she ruled. The mask of indifference is one of the most powerful psychological defenses in the feminine mind. It is not born out of pride, but out of protection. Behind the calm, eyes and distant expressions lies a storm of calculation and restraint. Every measured silence, every delayed response, every subtle withdrawal, these are not accidents of mood, but strategies of preservation. The woman who wears indifference as her armor has learned through experience that to show care too soon is to invite exploitation. To reveal emotion too early is to lose leverage. Thus, the mask becomes a form of power, a silent weapon that shields her from the dangers of vulnerability. From a young age, she observes that emotion creates exposure. The more she expresses, the more she risks. The world is not kind to those who show their hearts too openly. It rewards the one who conceals more than she reveals. The feminine mind internalizes this truth until it becomes instinct. When faced with uncertainty, she retreats behind detachment. It is her invisible fortress, her way of maintaining control when emotion tempts her to surrender it. Indifference becomes her language of dominance, one that speaks without words and commands without effort. The mask is not a lie. It is a reflection of wisdom gained from pain. Many have mistaken her silence for arrogance, when in reality it is self-preservation. The indifferent woman has felt the sting of giving too much, too soon. She has known what it means to care deeply and receive indifference in return. That lesson transforms her. It teaches her that control over expression is control over perception, and control over perception is control over power. The less she reveals, the more others seek to uncover her. The less she speaks, the more her silence is interpreted as strength. In the theater of relationships, emotion is currency, and the one who spends it first loses value. The feminine instinct understands this well. She knows that by appearing detached, she creates an imbalance that pulls the other person closer. Indifference confuses, and confusion breeds desire. It makes the observer question their worth, their impact, their hold. The man who was once confident now feels uncertain. He begins to chase what no longer chases him. The mask of indifference, therefore, is not only protection. It is control disguised as calmness. It allows her to lead without appearing to lead. Yet, beneath the cold surface, emotion never disappears. It only hides. The woman behind the mask often feels everything more intensely than she shows, but she refuses to be ruled by those emotions. She knows that attention is the most dangerous form of power. It can create dependency, and dependency kills authority, so she withholds. She measures every reaction, every gesture, every look. Her restraint becomes her dominance. Where others rush to express, she waits. Where others beg for validation, she remains still. The stillness unsettles, and in that discomfort, she gains psychological ground. This mask also grants her an aura of mystery, and mystery is the currency of fascination. The less people know of her true feelings, the more they imagine, and imagination, when left unchecked, builds illusions far stronger than truth. She becomes a canvas on which others project their desires, fears, and fantasies. Her silence forces others to reveal themselves while she remains concealed. In that dynamic, she holds all the power. Indifference, then, is not emptiness. It is control mastered through emotional discipline. To the outside world, she seems unbothered, unshaken, perhaps even cold. But her composure is not absence, it is command. Her indifference is not a lack of feeling, it is the refinement of it. Through it, she ensures that no one can predict her, manipulate her, or dominate her emotionally. She gives little, reveals less, and therefore loses nothing that can be used against her. There is a particular kind of man who disturbs the feminine psyche, not the one who insults or ignores her, but the one who simply remains unmoved. His silence does not come from arrogance, but from inner mastery. He does not chase, he does not react, he does not seek validation, and that absence of emotional movement awakens in her a quiet panic she cannot name. This fear is not of the man himself, but of what he represents: the loss of influence, the loss of control, the collapse of her emotional power over another. Because deep down, every woman desires to affect, to move, to awaken emotion in those around her. It is through that emotional impact that she feels her own presence validated. But when she faces a man who cannot be swayed by beauty, charm, or emotion, she feels something unfamiliar: powerlessness. The unmoved man represents a mirror she cannot read. Most men, when drawn to her, reveal themselves through admiration, gestures, and attention. Their reactions confirm her influence. But when a man does not react, when he watches her with calm eyes that neither plead nor praise, the rules she has always known begin to dissolve. She cannot predict him, cannot control the rhythm of the exchange, cannot measure her value through his responses. In this silence, her confidence begins to tremble, because she is forced to confront a truth she often avoids: that her power is not universal. It depends on the reactions of others, and when reaction disappears, so does her certainty. The unmoved man disarms not through dominance, but through restraint. His calm presence breaks the rhythm of emotional play. He doesn't chase, because he understands that pursuit diminishes power. He doesn't flatter, because flattery creates imbalance in favor of the other. He simply is self, contained, centered, whole. This self-sufficiency disrupts the feminine instinct that thrives on emotional exchange. It is not rejection that unsettles her, but indifference that cannot be pierced. Rejection at least acknowledges her presence. Indifference erases it. The absence of reaction leaves a void that her mind cannot fill. As this dynamic unfolds, she begins to oscillate between fascination and frustration. She may test him, provoke him, even attempt to draw him into emotional territory where she holds control. But his composure becomes a fortress. Every attempt that fails to move him only amplifies her curiosity. She starts to wonder what kind of strength hides behind such calmness, what kind of self-control resists her influence. The man who cannot be moved becomes a riddle, and the feminine psyche, wired for emotional conquest, cannot rest until the riddle is solved. Yet every attempt to solve it only deepens the power he holds. This fear, the fear of the unmoved man, emerges from a deeper place than ego. It comes from the feminine instinct's relationship with emotion as power. She knows how to rule the hearts of those who feel. But what happens when the heart before her does not react? When the energy she projects meets a wall of silence, the balance shifts. She can no longer lead through emotion, so she begins to feel led by curiosity. The very control she sought to maintain slips through her fingers, replaced by the hunger to awaken a response. The unmoved man's power is not loud. It is invisible yet undeniable. His calmness is a form of dominance that requires no display. The less he reacts, the more he draws her in, because the human mind, and especially the feminine one attuned to emotional connection, seeks feedback. It needs signs, validation, reflection. When none appear, it begins to chase them. This is why the unmoved man becomes unforgettable. He disturbs not by what he does, but by what he withholds. He forces others to confront their dependency on emotional control. In his presence, she is reminded that control is fragile, that beauty and charm lose their command before one who governs himself. And so, behind her confident exterior, she carries the silent fear of facing the one she cannot move, the one who remains untouched by allure, unmoved by affection, and unshaken by emotion. Power and vulnerability are not enemies. They are twin forces that endlessly circle each other in the dance of human connection. The feminine mind understands this balance better than most, for she lives at its center. Every interaction, every look, every word exchanged in the theater of intimacy carries this tension. To be too controlling is to kill affection. To be too vulnerable is to lose authority. So she learns to move between both realms, sometimes leading through emotion, sometimes ruling through restraint. But beneath this delicate dance lies a deep and unspoken fear, the fear of being understood too completely. For to be fully seen is to lose mystery, and mystery is the source of her psychological power. When someone begins to understand her too deeply, to see through her defenses, to read her intentions, to sense her hidden fears, she feels exposed, not admired. The closer someone gets to her truth, the more she withdraws, because understanding dismantles the aura she carefully constructs. What keeps her powerful is not the reality of who she is, but the uncertainty surrounding her. People are drawn to what they cannot fully grasp. Once she is understood, the spell is broken, and so she learns to reveal just enough to maintain interest, but never enough to surrender control. This is the art of emotional balance, where affection is offered in fragments and vulnerability is a calculated gesture rather than an impulse. This dance between control and vulnerability defines her relationships. She knows that emotion has magnetic force, yet it also binds her. When she loves, she feels the weight of exposure. When she withholds, she feels the ache of distance. The constant shifting between these two states becomes her strategy. To the outside observer, it may look inconsistent, warm one moment, cold the next, but beneath it lies precision. She is not confused, she is managing equilibrium. Her goal is not to deceive, but to maintain her psychological stability. For in the world of emotional power, stability is survival. The most profound form of control she possesses is her ability to decide when and how to be vulnerable. Vulnerability, when used deliberately, creates depth and trust. But when given without awareness, it invites exploitation. She knows that too much softness too soon will disarm her own authority. And so, she reveals her emotions slowly, selectively, and always in a way that sustains fascination. Her vulnerability becomes part of her strength because it is disciplined. It is not weakness, it is a strategic pause, a moment of openness that draws others in while she remains internally guarded. The danger arises when this dance loses rhythm, when vulnerability overtakes control. Then she becomes a captive of her own emotions, and the person she sought to influence begins to dominate her. The balance is fragile, and she knows it. That is why she is careful with her emotions, her words, her expressions. Each one carries consequence. Her awareness of this risk makes her cautious with whom she allows close. To let someone close enough to truly see her is to gamble her power, because genuine understanding dissolves illusion, and illusion is what sustains desire. The feminine instinct, sharp and ancient, knows that power thrives in uncertainty. The less one reveals, the more others invest in discovery. That is why she guards her inner world behind layers of complexity, weaving emotions and control into a single elegant performance. Her tenderness is real, but her mastery lies in how she reveals it. She can appear open yet remain unreadable, affectionate yet unreachable, sincere yet untouchable. It is in this tension that her influence breathes. The dance of control and vulnerability is not merely emotional. It is psychological warfare disguised as affection. She does not fight with words or actions. She fights with energy, rhythm, and presence. To control emotion without appearing cold to reveal softness without losing respect. This is her secret art, and so she moves, endlessly balancing between power and exposure, love and logic, fear and fascination, holding the world captive in a dance where only she knows the steps. In the secret chambers of the human mind, fear often hides behind beauty, silence, and control. What many call mystery is, in truth, a form of protection. The feminine spirit moves through a world that rewards control yet punishes vulnerability, that praises emotion yet exploits it. So she learns to command herself before commanding others. She learns to mask her fears beneath grace, to turn restraint into allure, and to transform silence into influence. But beneath every layer of composure lies the same quiet battle, the struggle to love without losing power, to feel without being ruled by feeling, to connect without surrendering control. The true strength of the feminine mind lies not in domination or deception, but in awareness. The awareness that every emotion carries consequence, that every display of affection shifts the balance of power, that every silence speaks louder than words. It is in this awareness that she rises above manipulation, mastering not others but herself. The fear she hides is not weakness, it is intelligence. It is the wisdom of knowing that power and vulnerability cannot exist without each other, and that the one who learns to balance them rules not through force, but through the quiet authority of emotional mastery.